The film begins in the dystopian future of the late 21st century, where an American weapons lab discovered an obscure virus that had been around for centuries. The scientists tried to modify it to create faster and stronger soldiers, but instead they created a more contagious form of the disease, a strain called HTB. The virus spread throughout the world, changing everything. The medical establishment took it upon itself to protect the public by first making infected victims wear identifying armbands and rounding them up in special camps until finally they simply disappeared. At a huge medical facility, 5 soldiers break into a large research facility, and after making it through the first few floors, the soldiers are ambushed by the facility security and executed afterwards. The lead detective checks the teeth of one of the fallen men and notices the extended fangs, proving that they were hemiphages, which are humans who mutated into a faster and smarter being due to the virus but had a very short lifespan. His partners note that they might not have come to take something, but infect the blood in the facility. Suddenly, the detective looks down at his hand and realizes that he touched one of the fallen men's blood. His partners immediately take out their guns and shoot him in the head before he can transform. Years ago, a pregnant nurse called Violet was attacked by one of the hemiphages, losing her husband and her unborn baby. Violet accidentally contracted the virus during the attack and was transformed, and shunned by the community, Violet started a resistance to fight the cruel forces trying to destroy them. In the present day, the leader of the militant medical establishment running the world was Vice Cardinal Ferdinand. Arriving at the Institute, Ferdinand gets briefed about the highly effective campaign that they had been executing against the hemiphages. He explains to his subordinates that he's been working on a weapon that could track and kill every hemiphage on the planet. He had sent a team to bring the weapon to the Institute, and meanwhile, Violet arrives at one of the best guarded militant medical establishments with a mission to retrieve the weapon that the facility had been developing to destroy the mutants. After making it through the front gates by using a false disguise as a classified carrier, Violet is let inside the building and taken to one of the labs where a group of scientists were waiting for her. Putting her on an automated chair, they test her to find that she was a hemiphage, and once they prove that she isn't a mutant, one of the researchers debriefs her about her mission, telling her that she'll be transporting a dangerous weapon that will annihilate the hemiphages. Outside the facility, another agent arrives claiming to be the carrier and is apprehended by the guards, who had assumed that she had been admitted 15 minutes ago. After confirming that her ID was legitimate, the guards surround the alarm, alerting the facility of an intruder. Realizing that she's been found out, Violet is forced to fight her way out of the facility, and the research lead identifies the woman as a plague victim who had been kept in the same facility before she'd escaped. Although they try to desperately stop her, she proves too capable for dozens of guards and manages to make it out alive. Although she manages to get to her motorbike, the swarm of guards were following her close behind as she drives through the city. From her superior, she gets the order to identify what the weapon is and destroy it if the military's army catches up to her. Following orders, she fights her way through the army and finds a safe place in one of the building's elevators to look at what's hidden inside the case, even though she was warned not to. Violet is shocked to see a young boy hidden inside the small case and closes it immediately when the boy opens his eyes. She finally makes it through the team's hideout and tells them that they were wrong and that the weapon that they thought the militia had built was actually just a child. Nerva, the team leader, explains that the child's blood was swarming with antigens that could kill them if they came in contact with it. Nerva takes out his gun to kill the child, but Violet stops him, telling him that they could use the blood to produce a cure. The loss of her unborn child had made her sympathetic to the innocent boy, but Nerva just dismisses Violet, telling her that her work is done. Walking out of the room, she grabs the boy that she just pulled out of the safe, just as Nerva shoots the projection that she left behind. Violet takes the boy to the rooftop to find a way to escape, but they encounter a different clan of hemiphages who are also interested in acquiring the boy. Violet uses her heightened senses and her impeccable fighting skills to annihilate all of them, and once all her enemies are dead, she grabs the boy and hurries out of the building. On the ground floor, Violet is met with another army sent by the militia, and she had to hide inside the car as an array of bullets fly over their head. Suddenly, Ferdinand arrives with extra men and orders the soldiers to stop firing on Violet and the boy. He then orders the whole building to be sealed off, and for any mutant that was found to be killed. He tells Violet that the boy wasn't a weapon like she assumed, but his son, and knowing that she couldn't trust anything that this evil guy was saying, she starts the car and makes her escape with the boy, managing to get away from the army by hiding out in a train. When she gets a few moments of peace, she starts to wonder what she actually got herself into with this child. After Violet and the boy leave the train, they realize that the malicious army was setting up a perimeter to try and catch them. While trying to take the child's blood as a sample, she finds out that his name was Six and that he could speak despite Ferdinand's assumption that he was just a vegetable. Running out of choices, Violet takes the boy to her friend Gareth's place, who gets upset that she'd risked her life and the research that he'd been doing for years. Although he was upset, Gareth decides to help his friend and draws some blood from the child to do some research. Later, Gareth gives Violet a blood transfusion as her body is slowly deteriorating and the virus eats at it. While he fixes the needle in his hand, he tells her that the boy didn't have any type of antigen in his blood like they primarily assumed. He explains that the child was also incredibly radioactive and had a tracking chip inside him, although they were safe in his lair. He tells her that all the chemicals that they put in him would kill him in 8 hours, and scared for her friend's safety, Violet takes the boy and leaves Gareth's lair early in the morning. The two head down to the station where Violet gives him her credit card and tells him to get something to eat. Before walking away, Six turns around and says goodbye to Violet, and she'd initially planned to abandon the boy, leaving him in the station for the militia guards to find him, but after walking a few steps, she regrets her decision and returns to find Six. Suddenly, she hears a shot and rushes to where a group of soldiers were looking down at a boy who wasn't Six. Seeing his shadow running through the emergency exit, she follows him and finds Six trying to escape. Just as she calls out to him, the boy halts, and Nerva appears out of the hole in the roof and snatches up Six. They drag the boy to the cemetery, followed closely by Violet. When she gets there, she's ambushed by her old crew, who are now working for Ferdinand, and killing the two waiting for her outside, she enters the chapel and finds dozens more. Nerva had Six hanging by a rope in the center of a well and was threatening to let him go. Nerva explains to Violet that the boy isn't a danger to their kind but the humans, carrying a powerful virus that would exterminate the human race. He tells her that releasing what the boy had into the world would finally even the odds for them, and uninterested in Nerva's offer, Violet begins the fight, smoothly beheading a group that charged her and then maneuvering her way through swords, cutting them down one by one. Before attacking her, Nerva lets go of the rope holding Six, but she manages to impale her attacker and catch the child just in time to save his life. Six had started to feel weak, his body shutting down from the virus Ferdinand had put inside him, and desperate to save the boy, she calls the evil commander and begs him for a cure, but he tells her that there was no cure for what the boy has. Violet knows that the man is lying because she's sure that he wouldn't create a virus that would kill him without an antidote. He also explains that Six was simply his clone, one of a series of 8. Ferdinand jokes that a vampire and a broken child make a funny combo, which really upsets Violet. When she tries to trace the call, Ferdinand tells her that she didn't need to do that and that he would tell her himself so that she could bring the boy to him. Violet tries to threaten him, but he was careless about it, explaining that he has 700 men to protect him, and giving him a death stare, she promises to kill them all. The phone in her hand shows her that Ferdinand was at the Archministry, but she turns around and she sees Six slumped over. And carrying him into a car, she starts the round to the Giant Institute. When she gets there, she finds Ferdinand waiting for her at the door and hundreds of his men behind him. He sees her determination and points to his men, asking her if she's crazy to want to take all of them on. When he sees her confusion, Ferdinand explains that his institute had done a good job extinguishing her kind, but now he needed to keep the rest of the humans alive by infecting them with a virus that would force them to get a daily dose of the antidote to live. Violet is adamant about her refusal to give him the boy, which makes Ferdinand angry, unleashing the full force of his army's gunfire upon her. Although the car behind her was destroyed, Violet seems unharmed, which makes Ferdinand realize that she was only a projection. As Violet and Six watch from the top of the next building, they're sure that Violet would have no way to steal the antidote for the child. In giving up, Violet takes Six to the park and lets him play like a child for the very first time since he was created. Suddenly, the boy collapses and passes away as she cradles him in her arms, and Ferdinand and his team appear soon after and take away the corpse of the boy, shooting Violet in the chest. When Violet awakens, she sees her friend Gareth holding her hand, finding herself in his his lair after he had rescued her and brought her back from near death. She was angry at Gareth for saving her life because she had given up on everything after losing Six. After leaving Gareth's house, Violet tries to off herself but is interrupted by Gareth, who explains that the formula that the child had written when she had first brought him had something to do with the human antigen virus. Suddenly, Violet remembers that a teardrop had fallen from her eyes and landed on Six right before he died, infecting him and turning him into a mutant. Determined to get Six back, Violet heads straight to the Archchemistry and begins a headfront attack, killing everyone in sight. Ferdinand, who was getting ready to dismantle Six, is informed about the intruder and must get ready before she comes for him as well. Violet moves up level by level, killing the army Ferdinand had bragged about, but loses 2 fingers doing it. When she finally makes it to Ferdinand, she finds him standing over Six's frozen body. The two engage in a violent sword fight, which Ferdinand knows he would lose if he plays fair. He closes the shield outside the glass dome, covering them in complete darkness, and then whispers that she only transformed with minor light sensitivity, while he could see perfectly in the dark, revealing that he'd always been a mutant. He tells her that he was the one responsible for discovering the mutated virus and infecting society, and Ferdinand charges forward, slicing and stabbing at her while she desperately tries to ward off the attacks. Their flaming swords create a bit of light for Violet to see, but she was still handicapped after suffering some cuts. And even after the blows that she sustained, Violet managed to elude him, reaching for her gun and setting Ferdinand on fire, then cutting his burning body in half. She then carries Six out of the chamber and into the sun so he can get some warmth, and when he wakes up, Six tells her that there was a cure, and she smiles and tells him that they had found it. And as the movie ends, Violet and Six drive away from the Evil Institute as it blows up behind them.
I hope you guys enjoyed the recap. Make sure to leave me a like, leave a comment, also subscribe to my channel. I love you guys so much and I promise to see you on my next recap. Bye!